You know how moving into a new place feels like a fresh start? That's what I thought when my wife Vesper and I got our keys to the apartment in Columbus, Ohio back in early March. The place seemed safe enough. But soon, little things happened that still keep me up some nights. It made me wonder who really had access to our home. Let me start from the beginning so you get the full picture. My name is Calder Quinn. My wife is Vesper Quinn. We picked this 2-bedroom ground floor unit at the Maplewood Court Apartments on Crestwood Drive because it was close to her work and the rent was okay. The building was that typical beige brick style from the mid-2000s. It looked like every other apartment complex around there. Nothing stood out as weird when we first saw it. We did the lease with Weston Realty Group through email and DocuSign. We never even met the landlord in person. It all seemed straightforward and easy. Vesper started her evening shifts at the Osu Vexner Medical Center soon after we moved in. That meant she was gone most nights, and I was there by myself. I was fine with it, because the complex felt quiet and safe. The third day we were there, I was trying to organize the kitchen cabinets. I opened one door, and right there, taped to the inside, was a Ziploc bag. It had a spare key, a little sticky note that said Sidegate on it, and a handwritten note with a Wi-Fi password for a network that was not the one the apartment complex had given us. I looked at it for a minute and figured the last person who lived there just left it behind by mistake. So I pulled it off and threw the whole bag in the trash. I didn't give it another thought right then. I remember I forgot to take the trash out that day, so the kitchen had a bit of a smell from the old food, but I didn't care. 2 weeks went by, and everything felt pretty normal. We were getting used to the new place. Vesper would come home late from her job and tell me about her day at the hospital. I would cook simple meals or pick up groceries. One Tuesday evening, I drove to the Kroger on Sawmill Road after work. I grabbed a 6-pack of Modelo and some chicken to grill for dinner. When I got home and set the bags down in the kitchen, I immediately noticed something. The recycling bin was not where I left it. It had been moved about 3 feet to the left. It was not tipped or anything, just repositioned like someone had picked it up and set it down again. I stood there staring at it. I tried to remember if I had moved it myself earlier, but I knew I had not. I put it back in its spot and tried to shake off the weird feeling. I remember the floorboards creaked under my feet as I walked around checking the rooms. Later that same night, I stepped out onto the back patio to throw away an empty bottle. That's when I saw the cigarette butt lying on the concrete. It was fresh looking. Neither Vesper nor I smoke cigarettes, so it did not belong there. I picked it up and looked around the patio. The area was quiet, and the grass was a bit overgrown because I had not had time to deal with it yet. Nothing else looked out of place, but that butt stuck in my mind. I went inside and pulled out our lease agreement to check the details. The previous tenant's name was Devin Harsh, and the move-out date was February 14th. That was 2 weeks before we got our keys. I wondered why he would leave stuff like that if he moved out on time. Then I decided to Google the name to see what came up. I found a Facebook profile that matched. It was private, so I could not see much, but the profile photo was of a guy in his mid-30s. In the background of that photo, I could clearly make out the kitchen in our apartment. The cabinets were the exact same, the overhead light fixture, and the small window above the sink. It was definitely our place. He had been posting recently, and the location tags said Columbus. I told myself it was probably nothing. He just had not updated his location on the app yet. People forget that stuff all the time. But then I kept scrolling and found a comment on one of his recent posts from 3 days prior. A friend had asked where he was staying these days. Devin replied with still at the Crestwood spot for now. I read that reply a few times. It did not sit right with me. I muttered fuck under my breath as I put the phone down. I did not tell Vesper right away because I did not want to worry her over something that might be a coincidence. I hesitated for a bit before making the next call. Instead, I called the Weston Realty Group office right away. The woman who answered was polite and said the unit had been rekeyed as part of the move-in process, but I pushed her to verify it for sure. She put me on hold for 11 minutes while she checked. When she got back on the line, she said the work order had been sent to the vendor, but they had not received confirmation that the job was completed. That meant the locks could have still been the old ones. I thanked her and hung up. I sat at the table for a while, just thinking about it all. The idea that someone could have a key to our place made me feel uneasy. I checked the doors twice that night before bed. That same evening, I decided I was not going to wait around. I drove to the Home Depot on Bethel Road and bought a new deadbolt lock. Back at the apartment, I got out my tools and installed it myself. It took some time because I am not the handiest guy, but I made sure it was secure. I tested the new key several times, locking and unlocking the door. It gave me a small sense of relief. I even walked around the apartment to make sure everything was normal. 3 days after I changed the lock, the building manager came knocking on our door. She seemed a little hesitant as she spoke. She told me that a man had shown up at the leasing office earlier that day. He said he still had some personal belongings in our unit and he needed access for a few minutes to get them. The manager had turned him away because we were the current tenants now. She said he did not get angry or argue. He just smiled and said, "Okay, no problem." Then he walked back to his car without any fuss. We never saw that man ourselves. After the new lock was in, we never found anything missing or disturbed in the apartment again. Vesper and I have stayed here since then. I still check the locks every night before bed. The floorboards creak sometimes when I walk around late, but I know that is just the building. But I still don't know how many times he was inside that apartment before I changed the lock. That question is what lingers with me the most. It makes the place feel not quite ours even now. When we bought our first house on Millbrook Lane in Shreveport, I thought the worst part would be the paint smell and the boxes everywhere. We had barely moved in when the first weird thing happened here. I was wrong. The house was old, the street was quiet, and one neighbor seemed interested in our lives from the first week. My wife Celeste and I closed on the house in August. It was in Broadmoor, on a dead-end street with big oak trees and front porches that looked like they had been there forever. Kids rode bikes there in the afternoon, and people waved even if they did not know you yet. It felt safe. Before we even finished unpacking, the man across the street came over with a bottle of Maker's Mark. His name was Orville Varn. He said he had lived there for 22 years and knew everybody on the block. He was in his early 60s, with gray hair and a smile that stayed on a second too long. At first, I liked him. I work at the FedEx distribution center off I-20, and my shifts are all over the place. Some days I got home at 4. Some days I came in after midnight. Orville was always outside when I pulled in. He would lean on his mailbox or water the same row of azaleas. He asked normal stuff, like whether the air got fixed and if the neighbors had been helpful. I thought he was just lonely. Then, in October, he started saying things he should not have known. One morning he told me, "You left early today, around 6:15. Another night he said, "Didn't see your truck until almost 10. Everything all right?" He said it like he was making small talk. I told myself maybe he had a wide view of the street. Maybe he just had a good memory. But my hours changed every week. There was no way he could keep up that well. Celeste noticed him too. She works from home, so she is around the house all day. One afternoon, she told me she looked out the front window and saw Orville standing at the end of his driveway, staring at our house. She said he stood there for almost 20 minutes. When she finally opened the door and stepped out, he waved like a man caught daydreaming and went back inside. That night, I checked our front and side yard with a flashlight. I did not know what I was looking for. I just wanted to feel better. I found nothing at first. No cameras, no strange boxes, no wires. I remember thinking about the trash cans because one lid had blown open and a raccoon had knocked over half the bag near the fence. The whole yard smelled awful. I was tired, annoyed, and trying to act normal for Celeste. A few days later, I was cutting weeds along the side gate. The lattice there was old and rotting, bent out of shape near the dirt. Under one broken piece, I saw something black tied to a metal stake. I pulled it free and saw a trail camera. A Browning Strikeforce HD. It was aimed straight at our front porch. Zip ties held it tight to the rebar, and the angle was not random. It was pointed so it would catch anyone walking in or out. Day or night, I did not touch the memory card. I just stood there holding the camera and thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? I called the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office right away. 2 deputies came out, took photos, and bagged the camera. One of them said it was criminal surveillance under Louisiana law if it was on our property. I felt dumb for not finding it sooner. The deputy asked how long we had lived there. When I told him since August, he rubbed his face and said the camera probably had been up for months. Then they went across the street. I watched from the window while they spoke to Orville on his porch. He acted calm, like this was some mix-up about parking. One deputy came back and told me Orville claimed he put the camera there before we moved in to catch package thieves and forgot about it. That explanation was shit, and the deputy knew it too. The placement would have caught every person coming and going from our front door. It would have seen us at night, in the dark, every time. Orville got a misdemeanor citation. That was it. He still lives across the street. He still waves when I pull in. Sometimes he is in his driveway when I leave for work, and sometimes he is not. I never know which is worse. We kept the house. We changed the locks. We put up our own cameras after that, even though I hate looking at the app. Every once in a while, when the light hits his front window just right, I think I see him sitting there, watching our porch like it is his job. I do not know what he kept on that card. I never asked for it. I just know that every house on a quiet street has a story, and some of them are not the kind you want to hear late at night. Some people leave a house because they found something better. A new job, a bigger place, maybe just a change of scenery. But sometimes people leave so fast they forget their shoes by the door, their cereal on the counter, and a journal in the nightstand with a sentence that still keeps me up at night. I never finished reading that journal. I probably never will. I took a job transfer to Memphis in the spring. Got a decent position at a logistics company. Nothing fancy, but enough to start fresh. The problem was, I had maybe 2 weeks to find a place before I had to report. No time to tour neighborhoods or compare listings. I just needed 4 walls and a working shower. Found it on Zillow, a house on Rains Road in Whitehaven. Fair price, managed by a company called Bluff City Rentals. I signed the lease mostly over email. Never visited before my move-in date. When I pulled up with my 2 bags and a box of kitchen stuff, I noticed the front curtains were still hanging. Fine, I thought. Maybe they left a few things behind. They left everything. I'm not exaggerating. The couch, the bed frame, the mattress, the dresser. Dishes still in the cabinet. A pair of women's sneakers sitting right by the front door, like she just stepped out to grab the mail. A box of Honey Bunches of Oats on the kitchen counter, half eaten, the bag rolled back down and tucked inside. I called the property manager, a guy named Delvante. He answered on the third ring, sounded like he was eating lunch, said the previous tenant had left in a hurry and that I could keep, donate, or trash whatever was there. No explanation, no apology. He just moved on to asking if I'd gotten my mailbox key. I kept the furniture. I had nothing, and a mattress is a mattress. That first night I was putting my stuff in the nightstand drawer when I felt something already in there. A notebook, one of those black and white composition ones. I didn't mean to read it, I just picked it up, and the page it fell open to had handwriting near the bottom. The date was 4 months before I moved in. Last line said, "I don't think he's going to stop." I put it back. Closed the drawer. Didn't sleep great that night. 3 days in, I noticed the master bedroom window had extra locks on it. Those cheap sliding bolt things you drill into the frame yourself. 4 of them. On one single window. First floor. The wood around each bolt was deeply scratched up, like someone had worked them 100 times in a panic. You know how your hands shake when you're really scared and you're fumbling with something? The scratches looked exactly like that. I told myself it was just an anxious person. Some people are like that. Then I found the phone. Behind the dryer. Prepaid. Still had a little charge. No passcode. I don't even know why I turned it on. I just did. Photos. Dozens of them. All taken from outside the house, through the windows, at night. You could see her, a woman inside, not knowing, watching TV, walking to the kitchen, just living her life. I sat on the laundry room floor and stared at that phone for a full minute. Called Memphis PD that same night. 2 officers came. A detective named Whaley and a younger woman who barely spoke. They took the phone. Whaley told me the previous tenant had been a stalking victim. She'd left after some kind of incident, and there was an active investigation. He said the suspect had been in the area recently. I asked him straight up if the house was safe. He paused, actually looked down at the floor for a second, then said, "Make sure you use your chain lock at night." That was it. No yes, no you're fine, just the chain lock. I went to Goodwill on Elvis Presley Boulevard the next morning and bought a Louisville Slugger for $4. Kept it under the bed for 3 months. The case closed eventually. Delvante texted me, just said situation resolved like it was a leaky faucet. I moved out 6 months later. Not because anything else happened. I just could never fully relax there. Every time I walked past that nightstand, I thought about the journal still sitting in that drawer. I never finished reading it. I think I already knew what she meant. That's the part that stays with me.